Order up.
Welcome back to Overproof. This week on the show, we have Ethan Phillips. Ethan is the founder of Empire Coffee Roasters in Hawke's Bay in New Zealand, which is where we just moved from. Welcome to Overproof, Ethan. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, thanks for having me, Sarah. It's a real pleasure.
I want to start with one question, and you can just give me a short answer for this one. If you were to go back to before you opened a hospitality business, would you do it all again?
There are some days that I would say not at all. There are definitely some days I would say not at all. But the reality is, I think it's in the blood. Like for me, it is anyway. Yeah. I love what I do, and I couldn't really imagine doing much else.
Yeah, okay. And if we go back to before you opened your first business, what came over you that made you decide that opening a business or starting a business was a good idea for you?
I'm not sure I would say a good idea. No, I mean, for me, my first time in the industry, first sort of taste on coffee was walking into a coffee roastery as part of a training program I was doing. I got hit with sort of the ambience and the smell in particular of coffee being roasted. And that was that. I said right there and then, I want to be in this. I want to run a business in this. That's me. I was probably 16 at the time.
Oh, a little young.
A little young'un. And I guess several years later, I did it. We've been in business now 9 years. Oh. So been about 6 or 7 years later, I opened the doors.
And so before you opened the doors, did you go and get experience like in the industry, and for how long? Yeah,
so I actually started in the industry trying to train as a chef and lost that job probably in 4 months. And that worked out quite well because I realized actually being that side of the hospitality world wasn't for me. And so I spent I probably would have spent 7 or 8 years in the industry before I opened up my own site. Now, we did start coffee roasting purely as wholesale prior to opening our cafes. So I was running that while working for somebody else for about 14, 15 months before we took on the lease that we're in now. And so I worked across obviously a coffee roastery, takeaway coffee venues, restaurants, bakery cafes, pizzerias, bars. Yep. My focus was get as much experience as I can and go from there. I spent majority of that time with one employer, but I was able to really progress while I was there.
And was this all in Hawke's Bay?
Yeah. So I'm born and bred Hawke's Bay. I have never lived outside of the Bay. I have absolutely no intention of living outside of the Bay. Hawke's Bay is the best part of this country.
I love that. We ran away from there as fast as we could, but
the time that you were here was a pretty traumatic period of Hawke's Bay's history.
Yeah.
Were you here for the cyclone?
Yeah.
So
sure was. Yeah, it was rough.
COVID, cyclone. It was definitely an interesting period.
For sure. Hey, you said quickly that you lost your chef job. Can you touch on that quick?
Yeah, look, I mean, I was 14 or 15 at the time. I was working sort of kitchen hand and junior trainee chef role. It was a catering kitchen, and we were doing sort of 12 to 14 hour days, sometimes 16 hour days. You find out the night beforehand with your working sort of thing. And it was over summer, so a lot of events, and this was my first job. So to be honest, I wasn't really cut out for that.
It's a rough first job.
So it was, I mean, look, don't get me wrong, I learned a lot from it, but basically I burned out pretty quickly, ended up sick with glandular fever, and when I came back, they basically said there wasn't a job for me. Applied for a few other jobs after that in the kitchen and got one job trial from that with a really well-known Hawke's Bay chef, and 2.5, 3 hours after the job trial, and basically said, look, you just aren't the right fit for this. Speed-wise wasn't attentive to detail of what he was after. And I mean, he was quite a high-level chef. He was after a lot more detail than I'd say some chefs were. But at that point in time, I'd already resigned myself to, you know what, I don't want to be in the kitchen. Yeah. I want to be able to interact with people.
Yeah, it's crazy. Do you think the work culture has changed since then? Because I know when I first started out, 14, 16-hour day, even a few years ago, like just before COVID, was completely normal. Do you think that's still normalized?
Oh, I 100% believe it's changed. I 100% believe it's changed. And I think COVID was a massive part of that. I feel we saw a shift in people's expectations. I mean, we're also an employer, like hospitality is a non-employer for younger people. and the expectations of younger people changed as well. I'd probably say that our generation was probably one of the last generations that would work those 14-hour shifts. And talking to employers now who are bringing in school leavers, it's a lot harder to get them to work a 6-hour shift.
For sure.
Sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
we all used to wear it as a badge of honor.
We did, and now that we're older, we probably look back and think, why we've got a few more grey hairs. It probably wasn't the right thing. And I'm not saying that working 6-hour shifts isn't the right thing, but it probably wasn't, for doing 14-hour days probably wasn't good for us.
So what did your entry into wholesale look like?
So obviously I'd had a dream a lot when I was a lot younger to do this, and I started playing around with some ideas and stuff. Money was a big thing because it came from nothing. We didn't have anyone to back, so it made it obviously a lot harder to do anything. And so I had conversations with a couple of close friends, a couple of people in the industry, and then one of them who had about 10 years on me said, hey, I'd be interested to get into this with you. They had a lot of experience in areas in the industry that I didn't have, and so we thought this could actually really work well. And I think that was what was pulled the trigger to, okay, we now need to make this happen. Okay. We've talked about it, now let's make this happen. I had a customer, they owned quite a large furniture franchise here in New Zealand, and their Napier site actually had empty space that wasn't doing anything, and they said, look, you can use the space, you can use it for free, let's get you started. And yeah, so we moved on in basically. We started with very little money in the account, and we just got going. Thankfully, we picked up a wholesale client literally the first week, so we actually had money coming in, which was nice.
Yeah.
And we got ourselves a cheap little Turkish coffee roaster that I say cheap because it was cheap to purchase. The number of issues with it was phenomenal, but that's why you get what you get. And yeah, we got going.
How did you source the coffee roaster? Did you import it from overseas, or did you buy it from somebody in New Zealand?
No, we bought it off Trade Me in New Zealand.
Yeah, love Trade Me. For anyone who's listening who's overseas and doesn't know what Trade Me is, it's Craigslist or Gumtree
New Zealand's
in Australia.
Gumtree or New Zealand's personal version of eBay or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But much better than eBay, I think.
Yeah. But, so we found something popped up online. At that time, it was very rare for anything to come up on Trade Me. And it wasn't, like I said, it wasn't great. It was unbranded as well. So we didn't actually know what we're buying.
Oh.
But it did the job. It got us started.
Yeah. And how much coffee could you produce at that point?
So that roaster there was only a little 5 kilo roaster. Technically, if we went full time at it 40 hours a week, we probably could have put out half a ton.
Oh, really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, on a little 5 kilo. It's very taxing on a little 5 kilo. But we could have.
And how did you get that first client?
It actually happened that they had contacted my business partner in regards to something else in relation to the industry, and it led from there. So they were a little coffee cart that was starting out. And so we signed them over, and then we worked from there. And our focus for a long period of time actually became workplaces and offices over the cafe trade. And a lot of that's due to COVID and how COVID impacted the industry, and basically us having to make pivot to ensure that we had that sort of secured income streams coming in.
Yeah, so that we get our timeline right. When did you start the wholesale?
So we started in January 2017.
Okay, cool. And so with that, obviously COVID was still 3 years.
Yeah, we had COVID was about 3 years. 2020 when we first had COVID.
And now are you still mainly focused on like offices? Are you still in offices?
Yeah, so the majority of our trade is still offices. We have started partway through last year pivoting to focus back onto the cafe trade. I think it's an interesting timing because we're in a recession, and so cafes are trading down, and we are seeing a lot of closures and stuff, so there's a higher risk factor there. But we're also starting to see people that have sat on money and sat on time starting to open things up now. And so I feel it's a good time for us to start pushing that side again. Obviously, we're focusing on offices and stuff. It means that our volumes are much lower, whereas with cafe trade, volumes are higher. But with office and workplaces, there's consistency because typically they'll put in a standing order and with the same coffee going out every single week, whereas cafes fluctuate seasonally. Yeah. And so, we did that, and that got us going, really.
Yeah. And then what was next from there? Because the Wholesale was not the only business that you've had, right?
No, so we got offered a lease. A family member of mine worked for a church and a shopping centre, and the church managed a series of stores, and we got offered a lease in one of those spaces. So we originally got offered 100 square metres. We ended up taking 300 square metres, but that was just timing worked out.
Okay.
But what happened was we got offered the 100 square metres. We talked about it. We decided, look, actually, we don't want to do this. We booked a meeting for a Monday to say, thank you for the offer, but no thank you. And then Thursday, we got the phone call from our landlord where the roastery was to say, hey, actually, we want the space back. You're out.
Oh,
I learned yes. So I learned, as far as I know, I learned a very valuable lesson here because we'd been offered the space for free. Even though we had a lease agreement in place with a 2-year period on it, and they'd offered it to us for free just to get us going. I mean, remembering back then, I'm a 2021. When no money crosses hands for a contract, it is not binding.
Wait, what?
That is my understanding, is when money, particularly on a lease contract, does not cross hands, it is not a binding contract. Now, I have never looked into that because at the time I was fuming. I have accepted that as that's a lesson learned. If nothing else, somebody offers me something, I'll give them $1. At least I know money has crossed hands. But yeah, so we got told on that Thursday, we'd booked the meeting to tell the potential landlords we weren't interested for the Monday. And we got told on the Thursday prior that actually you've lost your lease, you've got 4 weeks to go, and then you need to move. So we said, fuck it, basically.
Okay. There's a whole lot of timing going on there. There's a lot going on there. Oh,
and that's where it got interesting because in that period of time, I think it was like probably the Friday. So we had the Thursday there, the Monday meeting booked. And on the Friday, one of the other tenants in the shopping centre actually said, hey, look, I'm done. Now, he had a 200 square metre store next to the one that we were offered. He was an old video store. He'd been there for 30, 35 years. I mean, he had no trade. Videos.
I bet he was done, yeah.
Don't exist. All right. And it says, I'm done. I'm ready to retire. Okay. And so we're kind of like, you know what? Let's take the lot. So we knocked a hole through one of the walls. So I opened the 100 up into the 200. So we had a 300 square metre space in total. And we went with it.
So you went from saying this is not for us to tripling down on your commitment.
I think it was more, we weren't ready. Like we weren't doing enough volume to really justify, and we didn't have enough money in the bank to off. And so in both situations, we got lending. We had to lend against, use family members' property as collateral. Again, something I would not suggest doing, but that's what we did. And we did both on the smell of an oily rag. If I told you how much we borrowed in total for the two sides of the business, one for the cafe and one to get the roastery going, your jaw would probably drop.
Interesting.
Because we didn't borrow much. And that was to our own detriment in the long run because it meant that we didn't have an operating budget or a marketing budget.
You're the second person I've talked to that has said something similar. It's risky borrowing, but it's almost more risky not borrowing enough.
So we took 25 to get the roastery operating. We took another 17 to open the cafe doors.
17? It's nothing.
Now, to be fair, all right, the landlord put a lot of money into it. And the reason for that is because the other side where the video store was pretty rubbish. Like we're talking rotting carpets, we're talking walls deteriorating. So they actually had to fully renovate it to be able to get a tenant in. What none of us knew at the time is when you go knock a hole through a firewall, you have to get... Yep. Oh, it gets worse. But you knock a hole through a firewall, you have to get an engineer's structural report done and an architect's fire evaluation report done. Okay? So the landlord did sink a lot. So basically the 17 we used to open was basically, let's get everything that we need, let's get some clean up stuff done, so on and so forth. The original 100 square metres had been used as the church's private sort of Sunday cafe anyway, so there was already stuff set up. So we had a little bit of a little bit of existing there. Obviously we had our own coffee equipment, so that's a huge chunk of the cost covered. And I think we did a job for somebody and we scored a chiller cabinet for food sort of thing. So I'm a big believer in the bartering system. If I can do a job for you to get what I want, I'll do a job for you to get what I want. I think it's fantastic. And so what ended up happening is we took over the 100 square metre cell while the other side was getting renovated. So initially we actually hadn't knocked through that hole through the wall. And cool. So we took over on, I think the Monday after Easter or the Tuesday after Easter. and we got open on the next Sunday.
That is a fast turnaround.
5 days, we sleep 4 hours a night. We're doing shopping, we're painting what needed to be painted, cleaning up what needed to be cleaned up. Again, thankfully, all your plumbing, all your toilets, all your electricals were already in place. So we weren't reliant on trades to make this happen. And then we did the council thing while we were at it. So get your food license, file to get your food licensing sorted, file to make sure, is it okay that we do this in this place?
Knock out the firewall.
Open a cafe.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Wow. Oh, no, you're going to need to do this and this. Okay. We're young and naive and but want to sling and get this going. So we open on the Sunday. We got closed by council on the Tuesday. We had to do a change. We had to do a change of use to the premises.
To do that,
I don't know whether it's because council was just that slow or we pissed them off in trying. All right.
Which council were you in? Sorry.
Napier City Council.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. It took 5 months.
5 months. Yes. And
I think we pissed them off because ours took.
I think we pissed them off.
A couple of weeks.
The biggest problem Easter in April, we took the lease. Yeah. We thought we were getting open. We didn't get open until I think the 1st of September we're allowed to do takeaway coffee only, and then from 1st of October we're allowed to open properly.
Oh, all right. My God. So and were you paying rent this whole time?
Thankfully, no. Okay, because again, our landlords were really good. And to be fair, where we are, the rent is actually quite low. Because we're not in the CBD, we are suburban. Yeah. So the rent is quite low in comparative, which for us has actually played probably a massive part in our survivability over the last 8 years.
Yeah.
But the biggest issue that we had dealing with council is they would ask you all of these different questions. Like there was a checklist of 25 questions and things like, what's your plan for earthworks disposal? What's your plan for dealing with hazardous waste in the build process, so on and so forth. And we're going back to them and we're saying, there's no earthworks disposal. The building already exists. There is no hazardous waste. The building already exists. And we're a food license building, so we're business. So we're not dealing with any of that. And so you'd fire all of those questions back. Your clock would start again because they had a 21-day requirement to turn consents around, but your clock starts back again. So you'd fire all those questions back. Somebody else would pick up your answers or pick up the consent and then fire the same questions back to you. I think we had 6 or 7 different people from council send us the same questions over that 5-month period that we had already answered that weren't applicable to us. I really do think we pissed somebody off.
It might also just be everyone's experience with their council ever.
It could be, and unfortunately, I don't know if much has changed there.
Yeah.
So to be fair, if you're doing anything that requires council, it's horrible, but just get it done properly.
Yeah. And I would also say check before you sign the lease, because if you didn't have a good landlord and let's say your rent was expensive, you could be a lot of money in the hole before you even get open.
And I think that's the big thing is you guys, I read about you guys when you're Teresa and dealing with the toilets, right? I mean, toilets became a whole conversation topic for us as well, because we actually only have one internal toilet, but because of the access we had to the others, the 200 square meters, there was an external toilet, 2 external toilets, so that we managed to get that across the line. But
so you have 3 toilets for 300 square meters. We had 83 square meters and had to have 3 toilets.
Really?
Yeah.
What was your occupancy limit?
At the max, when we got outside seating, which was right at the end, maybe 50 people. Like, it was not big.
Wow.
It was small.
So we
had
an occupancy limit of 99. And the reason for that is because as part of this, we had to get a Type 2 fire alarm system installed. So a Type 2 fire alarm system is one of those ones where you've got the smash the box and press the button to set off alarm sort of system. Because we had a certain occupancy, we had to get that system installed. And hence why we're kept at 99, because if we were allowed 100 people, we'd then have to go to a full sprinkler system.
Oh,
it's all right. You learn a lot along the way of useless information that you probably never need to know again.
Totally. It's a maze. It's insane. Yeah.
It is. So we officially got open that September-October period, and
And by the time that you guys had opened, were you still excited for this to be like what you were doing?
Look, to be honest, we'd actually drawn a line in the sand. So because I had left my job, I was meant to be full-time. I had left my job. So of that 17,000, a good chunk of that went into my wage because I'd left my job the week prior to us opening. because we were expecting in our head we were going to get open. And then because there was in that limbo state of how long is this process going to take, I didn't go get another job in the process. So I've been 2020, I probably should have waited. But
that's what hindsight is.
It is. And so 2 weeks prior to us getting the sign off to open the doors, we'd said, look, we've got 3 more weeks and then we pulled the pin.
Yeah, okay.
Like, we can't keep doing this. So we're 5-6 months into this process. We can't keep doing this. It's not, it's got to actually put us on a worse foot. We pull the pin, we close off the business completely, and then we look at starting something again later on down the track.
Were you still doing wholesale during this time?
Yeah, we were. So we've actually been using a contract coffee roaster since we took over this premises. So when we moved here, our roaster that we'd sunk a lot of money into needed a whole lot more money sunk into, and we called it unviable. And because we had that gap period anyway where we couldn't roast on this premise, but we no longer had our premise, we needed to use a contract roaster to cover us over that period, and it's ended up carrying on forward. That is changing this year, which we'll obviously talk about a little bit later on. But yeah, relationships, that's worked really well for us.
Cool.
But yeah, so we still had the wholesale side, but for where we were at that point in time and looking at the numbers and stuff, we're probably just going to have to shut the whole thing down. Because we didn't have a licensed premise to do anything on site. We still had to go through a process to be able to get resource consent to have been able to roast on site. And it was just, the stress levels were high. And so, but a week from deadline, and council said, all right, go for it. You're going to start operating.
You have some crazy timing in the story.
It's been a roller coaster, and I would say there's probably some people out there that can relate to the roller coaster. There's probably people with very different stories. There's probably some people that have no idea.
It's really interesting doing this podcast and talking to people and hearing their different experiences, because some people are very much like you. I would say our journey is very similar to yours, where there is a lot of ups and a lot of downs and a lot of what the fuck are we doing? And then there's other people who have had just everybody's had something happen. But in terms of scale of what's happened, some people have had a pretty smooth ride.
They just cruise off. No idea about the sleepless nights.
It feels so unfair. But it's good. It makes you a better person, I think.
Oh, you know what? Life would be boring otherwise, right?
Exactly.
At least it keeps us on our toes.
Always on your toes.
Yes.
How did things go once you got the doors open?
Yeah, look, I mean, it was slow building. Like I said, we were suburban. So we had to create a destinational source space, and it was really slow building. I think that first started off literally just me running this 300 square meter space on my own. Actually, no, that's not true. My mum. So my mum's been a rock star through this whole thing. So she was basically 4 or 5 days a week as my offsider, and has been with us ever since. She only does Sundays now. But so I had her there, but I think it was probably a good 4 months that I was on my own. I didn't have any, outside of her, I didn't have anyone else. And then my business partner left his job and came into it as well. And then we had our first hire, I think it was the May after opening, which we hired, no shame calling her out, we hired a chick named Nick. I have worked with her previously for about 4 years. She is a rock star on her own, and we brought her on board, and she was fantastic. And so she was our first hire. That being said, we did have a couple of other people over the period of time that did work for us, not necessarily officially. And unfortunately, and there was probably 3 of them, and there would have been 3 of them at different times over that period, and unfortunately, none of them were there are people their business partner had connected with somewhere along the line, but none of them were the right fit.
That's fair.
For various reasons, I can't do someone who stands there and stares at dishes but doesn't do dishes. Like that, you're here to work. You need to. Yeah. Anyway,
that's why you're giving them money.
Exactly. But, so our first official hire was May, and that worked out really well. I mean, Nick ended up on maternity leave, and then she came back to us when things settled down in her life, and then she was with us partway through the COVID period as well.
Nice.
And she's actually somebody now that if I was to set up another cafe closer to where she lives, so we've actually both moved down to Central Hawke's Bay, she's the sort of person that I would shoulder tap to do something, because I know that she's got my back. And I think in this game, having staff that you can rely on and that have got your back is so critical.
100%, especially when you have a small team, I think. It makes, when you're doing a lot of it by yourself, that makes a huge difference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that was May 20, opened in 2018, so that was Mayish 2019. And then I had my first kid.
And how did that change things for you?
So she's 6.5 now, my eldest, Octavia. That was an interesting period overall. I love being a father. Absolutely love being a father. I've got 3 girls now. Octavia's 6, Macy's 4, Cassiella is 15 months. And I think the problem is, from a business aspect, it didn't change things for me.
Yeah, okay.
So to put in perspective, I think this plays a lot into the sort of pressure small business owners are under. And there is a bit of choice here. Octavia was born on about midnight on a Friday. I was back to work on the Sunday. Macy was born midnight, 1 o'clock on a Sunday morning. I was back behind the machine at 8 o'clock. So
because
7 hours
you've
later.
got no one to cover you and you can't afford to close for that day? What's the reasoning?
Honestly, because I couldn't afford to.
Yeah.
The first one is slightly different. I was meant to have somebody cover me on that Sunday. It didn't happen.
What a legend.
And the problem is I've now got staff relying on me being open, right? Because if I close my door, I've still got to pay them, right? Again, the second child, the same situation was I'm still going to have to pay my staff.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I think I had 2 or 3 staff on the team. So I had a bigger team, more staff to pay. My third child backfired on me because at this point in time, now, I don't actually have staff. And so with Cassiella, when she was born, I was like, okay, cool. I'm booking myself 2 weeks off. This is her due date. I'm booking myself 2 weeks off. Our first 2 kids were induced, so we knew when they were coming. Yeah. Cassiella wasn't. So I booked myself these 2 weeks. Cassiella was 10 days late. So after she was born, I got 2 days, which was still more than the other 2 kids. But yeah, I think that's
so rough.
It's so typical. But yeah, I think for me, it didn't change. And then we had things that happened pretty much straight after Octavia was born that made it impossible for me to be able to take more time.
Can we talk about that?
Yeah, so we can talk a little bit about that. About 3 weeks after Octavia was born, my business partner went away overseas and ended up on an extended holiday.
Your business partner went away. Had you discussed, was there any consideration for the fact that you were about to have a kid?
Oh, so this was 3 weeks after she was born. And I only found out a few days before he was going. Oh. Yeah. And so I was also young, dumb and naive, all right, being honest here. And I thought, it's all good. I can cover, he's away for 2 weeks. I can cover the floor for that on my own. It's fine. It's a 14-day stretch because at that stage we just started doing 7-day weeks. I was like, that's fine. I think the biggest lesson I learned there was I didn't take into consideration my wife.
Yeah, I was going to say your wife is very patient.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, she is. And I've got to give it to her. I mean, we've had a journey of our own. And I mean, she didn't know, I mean, she's a nurse, but until you're a mother, you don't actually know what to expect. Yeah. Everybody's birthing period and time after birth is very different. I'm sure she'll have no issue with me saying this, but unfortunately my wife has suffered from postnatal depression with our children.
With all of them?
With all of them, not so much with Cassiella. She still suffered here with Cassiella, but this time around we've got the tools, we've got the knowledge behind us. We know how to work through it. Octavia, we didn't know what postnatal depression was. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Postnatal depression to me was being forced to watch these horrific videos before we were allowed to leave the hospital of what could happen if you shake a baby.
Wait, what?
Yeah, they made us watch these, there was 3 different videos in regards to babies and looking after babies and what not to do. And one of them was about shaking a baby. And they were, honestly, even for me, I was like, I don't want to watch this. And yeah, so we didn't really know what to expect there. But I mean, we had a lot of other life triggers happening at the same time. Yeah. So my business partner, he went away and basically didn't return. And so it was quite a sudden decision for him to go on this trip. And it was a very sudden, oh shit, I'm on my own.
Yeah.
All right. And I mean, without going into details, this situation that we went through is the sort of stuff that you do see on movies. You never expect to actually experience in real life. And there are very few people that can probably relate to his situation and very few people that can relate to my situation around
I would say, because we're not going to say what the situation is, but for anyone listening, it's like a movie. The fact that you're sitting here with a smile on your face, everything that's happened.
I think the last 8 years probably feels like a movie. And I mean, to be clear, the reason I'm not going to go into any details there is because that's his story. That's not my story. But it is the impacts of that is my story. So this is actually also the first time that I have, outside of a few close friends, actually said anything in regards to that and how that's impacted me.
Yeah.
Because it did have a massive blow to us. So into 2019, nobody even knows that COVID's about to hit you. And I'm dealing with this.
Yeah.
So when COVID hit and everyone's freaking out, I was sweet. Is what it is. I've got 5 weeks off. I'm not allowed to work. I've got 5 weeks off. And someone's paying me to have that time. I have to say, lockdown for me, as up and down the roller coaster was, that first lockdown to me, I can look back now and say it was an absolute blessing.
From your personal point of view, what was the effect on you that losing your business partner had?
So this is somebody.
Sorry, he didn't die. I made it sound like he died.
He didn't.
But
This was somebody that was one of my close friends.
Yeah.
And he was also actually meant to be my firstborn's godfather. And so it had quite a harsh ripple effect on us. I still vividly remember the day that I found out what was going on, that we had to go through personal belongings, go through storage units to basically make sure there's nothing in there that we needed to be aware of, or other people's stuff that needed to be returned to them, sort of thing. It was really quite a sort of harrowing experience. And I remember getting home and I've got this 3-4, she would have been now, and at this point in time, she would have been 6 weeks. Getting home, wife's there, 6-week-old baby's there, mother-in-law's there. And literally I walked through the door and I just crumbled.
Yeah.
I was there probably only 2 times, maybe 3 times in my life that I can say I just absolutely crumpled. I was on the floor. I was in hysterics. I was bawling my eyes out. There's
a lot going on in your life right now.
It was, and you've spent this entire day with this high level of adrenaline rushing through you. Everything feels like slow motion movies. And I've got in the back of my head, I've still got a business to run.
Yeah.
Somehow I have to I'm lying on this floor, bawling my eyes out, knowing that I have to pick myself up and open the cafe at 6:30, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. And I'm on my own. And I don't know how long I'm on my own for. I don't know whether I'm on my own for 6 months, whether I'm on my own for 10 years. I don't know. For me, that started probably my mental health journey.
Yeah.
That was where it really started. It took me a long time to be able to say, actually, no, that's probably the defining moment for it. And yeah, it's even looking back now, having lived it and it being so long ago, it's really difficult to fathom going through that. And you hear people, business relationships falling apart. It happens. It's just normal. It's part of life. But to have that suddenly stop and change out of your control is just, yeah.
Yeah. And what did you, I think, like, one thing here is such a sudden change, right? You didn't have this like toxicity or something building up over time where you felt like it was coming. Such a sudden shock. And you've also got a partner with postpartum depression. You've got a 6-week-old baby. You've got a business you're running by yourself. That's a lot for one person to take on. A huge amount.
It is. We had actually, funnily enough, not long before all of that, we'd actually signed on a miniature franchise as well. Now, to be fair, I say sign on miniature franchise. It cost us, I think it was like $5,000 or $7,000. Right? Was the buy-in that we signed on. It's the quickest way to learn that franchisees have very little rights. Because basically I had to go to them and say, look, guys, I know I've signed on this and we paid. You haven't supplied any of the equipment as of yet because it's still due to arrive. I was like, but I have to bail. I can't make this happen as well. And they were straight to that, well, we've discussed this with our lawyers. There's no money coming back to you, so on and so forth. You've got no rights to money back. I mean, we washed our hands, but you know, you do. We thought we had something else about to happen and it didn't because this happened, and I mean, blessing in disguise, but yeah, it was definitely a tough time. So when we rolled into COVID, I'd already been through that mental health process, through the stress, through everything else. And yeah, so that was in that sort of September period. And at that point in time, so about 3 weeks before this has happened, my mum had gone from working 4 or 5 days a week for the cafe to working nothing. She was finally, she might have been a couple of months prior. She was finally free, so to speak. And so the moment this happened, obviously, the moment he went away, she filled in and then she ended up back on the team the whole way through. And so she's obviously wearing my stress as well because she sees how that impacts me. She's also had a relationship with this person, so that's impacting her. It's impacting my wife because she had a relationship with this person. So we're all dealing with this massive mix of emotion. And it is a massive emotional ride. And so I think it must have been the end of November of that year. And Mum was just like, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. We can't do this anymore. We need out of the cafe. We need out of the business. We need to call it quits.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I was like, you know what? We do. I was done. Okay, cool. So the next couple of months, we went through the process of getting the business on the market, or getting the cafe on the market. We were just going to close off the roastery because at that point in time, we hadn't built up enough to make it worthwhile trying to sell it. It was a side piece of the cafe, but the cafe was where we were going to make money. We did over that sort of November, December period. So same time as we made the decision, COVID hit China. All right. So COVID started being a conversation, but we didn't really pay attention to it because at the same time, half of Australia was on fire.
That's right.
Yes. So there were massive fires running through Australia. So I headed up a fundraiser here in New Zealand called Coffee for Australia. Basically, I think we had 20 to 30 different cafes I'd managed to get on board who each donated $1 per coffee sold on selected days.
Done.
And I think I want to say that was donated to the Red Cross, but I cannot remember now because obviously so much has happened. Actually, no, I think that was donated to directly to the New South Wales Fire Brigade.
Yeah, cool.
I think we raised close to 10,000 in total.
And so for anyone who doesn't know what these fires were, everyone in New Zealand will know because the fires were so big in Australia. New Zealand was getting the smoke across from Australia. Yep. So it looked like, I was in Taupo at the time, and it looked like the apocalypse, like it was the end of the world because the sky was just red.
If I recall correctly, we didn't just have fire teams from New Zealand over there as well. I believe you had teams from California and teams from Canada as well, who this was what they specialised in because it was that horrific. Yeah. And to be honest, I don't think I've seen a fire like that run through Australia before. I mean, obviously Australia gets massive fires, but not necessarily to that degree. And so COVID, like here, as far as I know, here in New Zealand, COVID really wasn't a conversation over that period because we're so busy focused on something that was more tangible to us.
Totally.
And then we get to the end of January and cafe goes on the market. Sweet. And 2 weeks later, there's a traffic light system. We're in level 2, and in 3 days' time, you're in level 4.
I laugh because it's a Shakespeare story. During the time that everything felt like it was falling apart, what were you doing to try, if anything, look after yourself and your mental health? Did you have any tools or like a good support network at that point?
No. I had a support network in terms of I had a couple of close people in the industry and a couple of close people to me anyway. There are a lot of people over that period of time that I actually had to cut out of my life because I just couldn't handle their drama, their life stuff. But in terms of the tools and looking after my mental health, I think there was a day, and I cannot recall when, but there was a day somewhere in 2020 or 2021 where I looked at everything that we had faced and everything that we were facing, and I literally said to myself, I can get through all of this. I can deal with all of the shit that's coming our way and that we're dealing with. The price of that is going to be my mental health. So I have to make a decision. Am I going to call it now and walk away from everything? Or am I going to push through and know that one day the debt collector will come knocking for that mental health and I'll have to deal with that there? And that was the choice I made. I made that choice of, okay, I just need to shut everything off and just push through. So I wasn't focusing on my mental health. I wasn't looking at, mental health, my mental fitness is probably the better term for it. I wasn't focusing on that. I was just focusing, sort of tunnel visioning, getting what needed done, getting through and just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And so it would have been after the cyclone that I actually made the decision, no, I can't keep doing this. I actually need to recognize that my mental fitness is really shit right now. Yeah. I need to pour into that because I can't keep running a business like this. I can't keep having running my family like this, so to speak.
Yeah.
And we have been through trauma. We have been through a series of trauma. I mean, by that point in time, we'd had the situation with the business partner. We'd had COVID was still a thing. We'd had Cyclone Gabrielle. We'd had the 2020 Napier floods, which I don't know if you remember those ones, but that flooded our entire cafe. Yeah. So where we're located, that flooded our entire cafe. And we'd just been there. It was just literally, it was one thing after another thing after another thing. And I just said, I can't. If I keep doing this, I will break now. And now I've got to focus.
Just so we can give a little bit more context to this. So you had the 2020 floods, which those floods were like a sudden downpour and just completely flooded all of this flat land, right, in Napier?
Yeah, and it was, as far as I'm aware, it was pretty much infrastructure failure.
Yeah.
So the stormwater pumps in Napier failed and the place flooded. And so I've got photos of people out in kayaks around our shopping centre.
Yeah.
All right.
I drove off the expressway, and I told you this when we caught up last time,
Yes.
but I was driving back in my boss's car that he had lent me to drive between the two suburbs. I didn't even know there was flooding, so I pulled off the expressway, and the water was halfway up the doors, and I was bobbing like I was in a boat, and so I just tailgated a ute the whole way home. It was terrifying.
And it was, I mean, like, it wasn't until the next day at about 1 o'clock, I had gumboots on, I had to park the car down the road, and I waded through some of the leftover water to get into the cafe. And we actually, the worst part is because the shopping centre is raised off from the road just a little bit, we actually would have been fine, barring the number of people that decide to get out on their four-wheel drives and drive through it, which created waves. So we had water went all the way through to the back of our site. We had to shut down the 200 square metre space for about 3 months because they had to have all the carpets ripped out, recarpeted, whereas the other side was concrete. But yeah, so that was infrastructure failure versus the cyclone, which was obviously a lot worse.
Yes, so there was the flooding, and then can you please explain to the listeners what Cyclone Gabrielle was?
So Cyclone Gabrielle was a tropical cyclone that came through New Zealand. It hit the north of the North Island, and it hit the east coast really badly. I think we had 9 or 10 deaths as a result of it. At the time, I was living in Hastings, and our business is in Napier, and it's connected by 2 bridges. So cyclone hit on a Monday, about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Day, right?
Even in Hastings, all power went out.
Valentine's.
Yeah. Internet went out, everything went out. So we had no idea what was going on. Cool. It's pissing down with rain out here in Hastings. Yeah, there's some water in the gutters. Nothing major. Internet came back on for us, and power came back on for us at 10 o'clock that night in Hastings. And yeah, just to clarify, in Hastings, parts of Napier were cut off from all of that for 5 days. All right. The thing is that I actually think know that those in Napier were living through it. All right. But I think there was a degree of ignorance is bliss at that period of time. Because you guys knew what was happening in your own little social bubble, right?
Yeah.
And your own community and the people that you're talking to around you. But you couldn't see the bigger picture of what was happening. At 11 o'clock at night, we're online and our hearts just stop. Because we're getting video footage and photos of what's happening up in Auckland and Northland, but plenty. We're seeing what's happened to Napier. We know about Esk Valley. Like most people in Napier that I've spoken to didn't know about what happened in Esk Valley until like Thursday. Monday night, we knew. And you've got no way to contact anyone. You've got no way of reaching out to anyone to find out how they're doing, if they're okay. Now, my wife's a nurse, so as soon as literally the day that the bridges opened, she was deployed back into Napier. She works for a GP clinic. That GP clinic basically became a sort of a mobile emergency medical site. She was deployed back in. 2 hours after being there, they were evacuated from their premises because of a suspected gas leak. They got back in an hour and a half later. An hour after that, civil defence or fire, whoever it was, announced that they were shutting the bridges down.
Yeah.
Because it was only meant to be essential services going through over the bridges, right? But everyone thought that they were essential services. People in Hastings and Havelock North, another neighbouring town, thought that they were counted as essential services going and checking on somebody over in Napier that they couldn't get a hold of. Or people were trying to get out, or people were trying to rub a neck, all right? And so they said that they were shutting the bridges down, and you had to have an actual card or something to say that you were essential services. So her employer got them all sorted with those cards, which all ended up being wrong. She got in the queue. It took her an hour to get to the front of the queue just to get turned around because the card was wrong. And so we're dealing with the stress. I've got 2 kids at home, and we think that she's going to be trapped over there in Napier. Thankfully, so she started trying to get home at 1 o'clock, 25 kilometre drive. By the time she got home, it was 7:30. So and that's our experience with the cyclone. But the thing is that even then, it was quite traumatic for us as well because of what we do, and especially here in hospitality, is we heard all of the stories.
Yeah.
That Sunday was our first the Sunday after we got back open. We did basically we said, look, we're not charging normal rates. If you want to donate money for your coffee, donate money for your coffee. Otherwise, it's on us. We don't just here for our community. And the stories, honestly, but the worst part is we're 3 years on, and there are still people that are suffering as a result of this. But here in Napier, we don't think about the Christchurch earthquake. We still, after 2 years, the story wasn't there anymore, but there were still people suffering from that years and years on. It's not fully rebuilt. And we're the same here in Napier. There are still people suffering as a result of the cyclone. And so it is still quite traumatic for a lot of people. Well, where we lived before we lived in Hastings, where we were meant to actually stay, was out on a road called Buckfire Road. And Buckfire Road was one of the conjoining roads. And so that Sunday that I came over, I took that road because it was the only accessible road and looked at where we were living. And where we were living would have been pretty much 100% underwater. And I was trying to get my Macy would have been 6 months or 7 months or something at that stage. She would have been 4 and 2. So really young, with my 2 young children up onto that roof and have them up there for hours on end. And I haven't driven that road since because I still can't place that. And so I think that's the thing. We're diverting a lot here from owning a business and hospitality in general. But I think what's really important to realise is that as people that don't own a business, you have your work stresses, you have also your home life and everything else that happens, right? Business owners, and particularly hospitality business owners, I feel, we have this whole world of stress just in our own doors, and then we have everything else around that compounds, and we have to deal with all of that. I'm a firm believer that being in hospitality, being a business owner in hospitality is one of the loneliest jobs in the world. And also one of the most stressful jobs, one of the most stressful businesses that you could ever own. And yes, we're doing this while dealing with all of this other real life stuff that's happening around it. And it takes its toll.
Yeah, it's a huge amount. Like the particular journey that you've had has been a huge amount of stress. And then to be doing that without a business partner, or to lose your business partner partway through that. You've had 3 kids during this time. You've had, I just want to get this right. You've lost your business partner. You've had a wife that's had postpartum depression, which is a whole thing just by itself. That is not a small thing. Then you've had your premises flood. You've lost a lease. You've had Cyclone Gabrielle. And you're doing a lot of this driving.
I lost all my staff as well.
They made it sound like they died.
Yeah, I need to clarify. So we obviously, in the middle of COVID, we had a couple of things happen. So we had our second child was born in the August, and the October our landlord said, look, we need to put your rent up because we obviously haven't over this period, but it was a substantial increase. And at that time, I don't know what our lease agreement was at the time. Maybe we'd moved to month by month or something because it was COVID period. I can't remember. Right. And then the government put in the vaccine mandate. Right. Now I lost my entire team
because
in that
nobody wanted the vaccines.
Yeah, and I think hospitality, probably there was a lot of people in hospitality that didn't. And to be quite honest, I probably wouldn't have if I didn't own a business in this industry and wasn't able to sit there. Yeah. And it was honestly a case of I have a choice. I can just do takeaways out the window and have my team that I can't afford to pay because that's all I'm doing while other cafes are open. Or I can make this move and get this jab myself and then keep my doors open. But I lost my whole team over that period of time. Rent went up. I had a brand new baby at home, and I was like, no, this isn't manageable anymore. It's going to take me. This is also a time that we were in a crisis for hospitality staff in Hawke's Bay. And I was like, I'm not going to be able to replace these guys, which means with the way our site had set up, because we just punched a hole through that, from that smaller side to the larger side, and we had a sliding door. So we could close it off for events and stuff while still running the cafe the other side. I was just like, you know what? I need to relinquish this lease. So we actually gave, at that point in time, we gave the large space. That Christmas, New Year, we didn't take a break. We renovated the original space that we'd been offered and turned from being a cafe to being basically a coffee bar. So we have indoors, we have 3 tables and chairs. Outdoors, we have 3 tables and chairs. They're communal style tables, and we turned it into a coffee bar because I was like, I can't deal with staff. I'm not going to find staff. I can't deal with this lease, and I've got a newborn baby. I don't want to spend my afternoons vacuuming. That's a lot of space to vacuum and to clean. I was like, I'm not doing it. So we've been that size space ever since.
Did it feel like a relief to downsize and at that point? Was it upsetting?
Yes and no. At the time, it was a relief. I look back now and there is a little bit of regret. The worst thing is that we had just finished formalising a full renovation plan for that site. So we'd spent most of our time and money, because we spent so little at the beginning, we'd continuously upgraded along the way, built things up. So like the counter side, which is the side we kept, we started with 5 little retail shelves. By the time we made the big change, we had 3 full retail shelves that almost span the length of the space, packed full of local and New Zealand products, right? Our focus was local and New Zealand products. And so we had a full renovation plan, basically, that was going to turn this counter space full retail. So we're going to put in a lot more retail. We're going to repaint, redecorate, redo the kids area, really upmarket the other side as well. So we had everything planned out, and then these sort of dominoes happen, and we're just like, so I think a part of me, there's a little bit of regret of, I would have loved to have seen that final product. I love spaces. I love design of spaces. I'd love to have seen how that would have come out. Reality is we probably still would have survived if we'd kept that space. Just knowing how our lease has changed over that time since then, knowing what the industry has done since then, and the fact that we are in a recession. Yeah, so we downsized and became more of a community coffee counter than anything else.
And since doing that, you are still working by yourself, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so my mum still works with us on a Sunday.
I love her.
My six-year-old started working as well. So she started working a few months before Christmas. So she's also just on a Sunday. She does get paid with real money. People seem to think she only gets paid in chocolate, fish and fluffy. She does get paid with real money. But that's also as much a teaching thing for us with financial education with our child as anything else. But she loves it. She's up probably sometimes before I am on a Sunday morning, ready to go.
And is it legal?
Is it legal for your child to work? Everything that I looked into said yes.
I mean, if they're happy to do it, I wouldn't see why not. But...
And there's not, from a monetary aspect, like in New Zealand, at that age, there's no required minimum wage. And so long as they don't earn over a certain amount of money in that process, they don't have to pay tax. So there's a bit, we did go through the process to make sure that everything was tickety-boo there, as far as we can see. Hello, she's having a blast. And
I love that.
Most days. But yes, that is just me now.
And now that you can say that your mental fitness has been something that you have struggled with in the past, is there anything that you're doing now that you're really aware of it that you are doing to look after yourself better or to process everything? Yeah.
So shortly after the cyclone, so as I said earlier, our landlords are a church. And they were fantastic after the cyclone. They had teams out and about doing a lot of work. They also brought in a lot of gear from other churches across the country, a lot of resources. And one of the things that they did was they got offered a counselling fund from a local guy who had been in a different industry when the Christchurch mosque shootings happened, and he was on the ground for that. And so that kind of pivoted him into this direction of work. And so basically I was offered shortly while after, once the sort of usage of it had decreased and there was still quite a substantial amount left in the fund, I was offered to have sessions with this counsellor, and I took him up on it. So I've been with him probably now for 2 years, and it's made a big difference for me. I think having someone to talk to that's non-biased is always, or non-judgmental, is always going to be helpful. And having someone that can listen really well as well. And that's not to say any counsellor will work for anybody. I think you need to find your people. You really need to find your people. But I think for me, it's allowed me the ability to take a deep breath. All right. So he's diagnosed me with PTSD. He's diagnosed me with chronic stress. These are things that I could have told you that I had if I'd taken the time prior to actually stop and think about it. So it didn't come as a surprise in the slightest. And it is now a matter of recognizing mental fitness it's like your physical fitness, right? If you don't work at it, it's not great. You have to continuously work at it. There's no such thing as perfect mental fitness, all right? And so it is a continual cycle, and it's a cycle that we go through for our whole lives, and there will be ups and downs. And it's learning managing tools. My biggest thing that I needed to learn, and I'm still learning today, and will still be learning in 10 years' time, is it's not about decreasing life stress necessarily, or it's not about the big scary things not happening. It's about how we respond.
Can't stop them from happening.
It's having the tools in place. No, it's having the tools in place to be able to say, okay, this is happening. Now what? As opposed to being like, oh shit. And I think in this industry, I said before, being a small business owner can be quite lonely. I had a boss. He was a phenomenal boss. At the time, I may not have thought so, but I actually learned a lot more from him since him, like now, I did while working for him. And one of the things that I really, because I've been able to look back and put pieces together of why he did, or why he said things, or why things happened in the way they did. One of the things I realized was that he was very lonely. right? Because he's working 50, 60, 70-hour weeks, surrounded by his staff, but to a degree, he has to always keep his staff at arm's length, right? And you do. There is a degree where you have to keep your staff at arm's, and it's hard because they become your family, all right? And so you've got to start building up that network. And I said I had to let go of a lot of friendships because I just couldn't handle the drama. And it's not to say I've got a big friend circle now, but I've also learned to find certain people that I could relate to, that I knew had my back, that I knew could support me, and that I in turn could support them. And a lot of that is actually finding people that are a level above you in life, if that makes sense, because that also gives you the ability to strive towards being better, but also gives you the ability to learn from them and their mistakes. And a lot of the time, that's not necessarily looking at somebody in your own industry either. It's looking at people outside of that. I think also part of the mental fitness journey is actually just accepting that you need to work on this, that there is a problem. We work in a high-stress environment. And don't get me wrong, hospitality is probably one of the funnest industries in the world to work in. It's probably one of the most stressful industries in the world.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just the whole thing. To get a job in hospitality, you could leave school and you can easily train into hospitality as a wait staff. Right? More time behind a bar or behind a coffee machine or in the kitchen. But you can easily get a job after school, sort of thing. Everyone seems to have this idea that hospitality is the entry-level business to own.
It is so not.
Like, after COVID, I don't know if you remember looking at Facebook and Instagram and the sheer volume of, we've just opened up a brand new coffee cart that happened all across the country. And I was just shaking my head. I was like, no, run for the hills. Like, no, because it's really not. It's a really fun industry. And it's great if you've got the passion, but you've got to really have strong business acumen as well. Otherwise, it's really not fun.
It is one of the hardest industries to run, and also one of the hardest to make a profit in, because unlike if you go into, I don't know, tech or like a plumbing business, it's mainly the logistics of it is so much less than hospitality, because in hospitality you've got 100 different things to think about at any given time. You've got your staff, you've got your goods, you've got the things that they're putting together to sell to the guest, you've got their experience, you've got the business side of it as well, you've got the sink that's broken over in the thing and you've got to go fix something over there. There's so much stuff that all together you have to do, and if you're doing it by yourself, or if you're doing it as, I don't know, two people running a business, there's a lot of things for you to cover, and you might not take any money out of it.
It's not even just that, right? It's you might start looking at all of those things and like, shoot, say the hot water cylinder is blown or something like that, and I can't open today. It's not like any other industry where it's all well and good because the jobs you have for today are going to be there tomorrow, so you're still going to get paid for it. No, you close your doors. There's no, I can't make you buy 2 coffees tomorrow because you missed out on your coffee today. And it is stressful. And you're right, profit-wise, there's not huge margins in this industry. I've said for a long time, and somebody out there will probably sit down and do the actual numbers and prove me wrong, but I would say for most cafes, on average, it's probably one of the highest lease per square meter, and it's probably one of the highest wage bills per square meter, and it's probably not too far off with electricity either. Like, I know cafes that are paying $3,500, $4,000 a month in power bills. And that's not far-fetched. We've got very little appliance we're running in our little space, and we're still paying $350, $400, and that's for a coffee machine, a couple of grinders, and a fridge.
I think our power bill was like $1,500 a month. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Carry on.
There's not massive money in it. But you've also got the staff aspect of it, because your wage bill in hospitality is predominantly always going to be your highest bill. I don't think there's many people that would disagree with that aspect. But because of the volume of staff you've got as well, you're constantly dealing with staff off sick or any other form of leave that needs to be covered. And what happens if 2 staff go off sick? And you're short on being able to cover people. You're on the floor, so you're not doing the paperwork and paying the bills from 3 weeks ago that you still haven't got a chance to get to the office to pay, right? Or it's your one day. The number of times previously when I've run places that I've had to call the boss and honour his 1 day off in 3 weeks because half my team haven't turned up to work. I'm great at what I do, but I'm not a magician, right?
It's so true. I know. Yeah. So we had something very similar where I had a baby on the 1st of December, and then we had December is just December. It's crazy. And then just before New Year's, all of our team got COVID. And we were like, we can't close for New Year's. So luckily, everybody rallied, but this is bad. So hopefully there's like a statute of limitations, but everyone just went to work with COVID because we had to. We couldn't close for New Year's because then we weren't making enough money to like pay everyone if we weren't open. And because we'd just been through all the public holidays as well, which you have to pay if you're closed. And we wanted people to be home, so we closed, but you still have to pay people. So we'd paid out all of this money. We had to open for New Year's. Everyone has COVID, so we're like, suck it up, Buttercup. Everyone's going. I'm going to get so much hate for saying that.
But no, to be honest, you know, you do, right? How many times as a business owner in hospitality, when you've been feeling under the weather, have you had to go to work? COVID's a bit different, right? But COVID was COVID. However you look at it, COVID was COVID. But when you close the doors for a day, you've still got everything to pay. And not only have you got everything to pay, you've got food sitting in the fridge not being sold.
Oh, and I forgot one other part of that. My husband had to go to work with COVID, but I was in the hospital with our baby with COVID. So he couldn't even come with us when like the 1-month-old baby was like super sick. He had to be at work working while he was also sick. It was just a fucking nightmare. Anyway, but yes, you're 100% right.
I'll tell you something funny though. So New Zealand, obviously, they pay people to have COVID, right?
Yeah.
So we got, if you were sick with COVID, you didn't have sick pay, government paid you some form of wage or so on and so forth. I think that lasted for about 18 months. So I'm in hospitality. I'm working with people all the time. My wife's a nurse. She's working at that point, beginning of COVID, she was working in aged care. She moved to primary health. So she's working with people all the time. And she worked through the lockdowns as well because of her job. Neither of us got COVID. And then they announced, oh, look, hey, we're going to end this payment for when you have COVID. The date is the 18th of August or something. And I turned to her and I said, we're fucked now. Sure enough, 20th of August or 2 days after that payment's ended, we watched one kid go down and I went tumbling down afterwards. Next kid went down and she went down.
Oh,
it was
no,
horrific.
dude.
Absolutely horrific. So we ended up getting it twice, but I don't know how we managed to not get it for so
that's
long.
crazy. I've had it like four, probably
no,
way more than that now. But luckily, I'm strong and I only get a sore throat, but my husband is not.
Your husband, it wasn't just a sore throat. I don't think I have ever, no, there's only probably, I've had a handful of mouth
that's
once.
Worst, yeah.
Yeah, if you ever get, that's the only thing that I would say was worse than COVID. That was an absolute horrific nightmare.
Adults aren't, do you know that
great.
adults aren't, you must be stressed because adults aren't really meant to get hand, foot and mouth. I got it while we were also running a business and I was under a lot of pressure and my whole body came out in a rash. But apparently adults don't typically get hand, foot and mouth.
No, it's something that's meant to be like your sister can't handle. But yeah, I would have been stressed. And that put me flat on my back for 7 or 8 days. I could not move off the couch. I don't think I got back to work for two weeks in total, which meant 2 weeks of the doors being closed.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Because at that point I was like, getting sick and being a small business owner is not fun. You push through on the ones that you can because you know they're the ones that you can't do.
Yeah, I think it's really important for people to understand if you are looking at opening a hospitality business and you are looking at doing a smaller business, this is something most likely that you will have to face. And if you're not the type of person that can rally when you're under the weather or when things go wrong, realistically it's probably not a good business to get into.
And I think a really good one to point out is also is burnout, right? So going back to the mental health is burnout, because I think most small business owners at some point in time will start feeling burnt out. And if you don't have a team, or you have a very small team, or you don't have anyone to cover you, and even if you do have a team, you can't just drop all. That stress is going to be there tomorrow and the next day and the next day and the next day. That's just part and parcel of having a business. People in employment get burnt out. They can take garden leave or whatever leave we call it. They can take time off to refire. So you can't when you own a small business, because it's like having a child. Yeah, you might put it to sleep for a couple of hours, but it's back there in the morning asking for something. And usually that's your time or more of your money. So you have to find tools that work for you to actually be able to work on your mental fitness, work through things like burnout while still operating, because you can't just up and leave. You up and leave, your business goes under, and that's that.
Yeah.
And I think there are a lot of people that probably over this period of time probably had just up and left, said, I've had enough, throw the business into liquidation, let's walk away. I can't do this anymore. And I don't judge people. Honestly, I don't judge anyone that's been like that, because I understand, when you understand and feel the pressure and the stress that people are under, in small business, in hospitality,
Yeah.
it's hard. It takes its toll. Yes, we had really great times. Do not get me wrong there. And we love what we do. Hospitality, to me, is built on passion. It has to be built on passion. Because I don't understand why anyone would do it otherwise. I honestly don't. Like we've said, there's not massive amounts of money in it. So I don't know why you'd do it otherwise. But it doesn't mean it doesn't take its toll. And there's that expectation, people's expectation that there's always a smile. You're always going to be bubbly. You're always going to be this. You're always going to be that. And you can't. We had a family member pass away, and at the time we thought she'd passed away. She had a stroke. She passed away a few days later. But we had a family member pass away that was quite close to my wife and close to me. My wife called me. This was at 12 o'clock, and I was like, shit. And then the next customer that walked through the door, I didn't have a smile on my face, and I got ringed for it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell this person that I don't know that my family member just passed away, but right now I'm trying to hold back having tears. And yeah, it is hard as a staff member to constantly have to be on. It's hard as an owner as well, because especially if you've got a team, you have to lead by example. You don't always feel that great to do so.
It's so true.
Right? And it does. It digs at your mental health. It digs away at you because you feel fake as well. You feel like a fraud trying to be this happy person. Really, you're dealing with shit in your personal life, and you're dealing with stress over here. And
yeah. And it's really hard. Like, you don't want to put that on your... if you do have a team, you don't want to put that on your team either, because nobody wants to work for owner who is grumpy all the time, who is stressed all the time. You're not going to keep your team if you're like that. But then if you are dealing with all of that stuff, that's where the loneliness part comes in.
Yeah. I think it's also important to recognise that your team, right? Your team know when stuff, because to be in this industry and to work under the pressure that we work under, right? Teams become quite close-knit. Hospitality has a lot of toxicity in it, like any industry, but teams generally become quite close-knit and quite right. They know, they can feel, they can sense when things aren't right. And yeah, it is. It is hard. And I think, if you're going to go into this industry, or if you're going to go into small business in general, I think the biggest piece of advice I can say is build a network around you first. Plan out and know what works for your mental fitness, and keep working on it from day one. Work on it. Don't say, I'll start working on it in 3 months or 6 months' time. No, because by then, some of the damage is already done. If you've just started a business, you're probably not making money for that first 3 to 6 months. That means you're having sleepless nights for that first 3 to 6 months. The damage is done. So you need to work on it from day one, and you need to have that support network around you, and you need to know what works for you as well. But like for me, my big thing, obviously I've got someone I can talk to. I also love being out in the garden working with my hands.
It's my husband. It's the same.
Yep. I also have a really super geeky, nerdy hobby as well. I'm a tabletop gamer. Does that mean anything to you?
Oh my God, I can't even think of the name of the game. I've blanked. You have the... Is it the one where you dress up? Stranger Things?
No, I'm not. In the geeky world, you've probably got 4 different groups of people. You've got tabletop war gamers, you've got D&Ders, you've got the card gamers, and you've got the board gamers. I'm a tabletop war gamer. Anyone out there who knows Games Workshop or Warhammer knows exactly what I am talking about. The easiest way for me to explain it to somebody who has no idea is it's like playing computer games such as Age of Empires or something like that, but on a table crossed with chess. Yeah. So it's extremely there's a lot of logic that goes into it, a lot of strategy that goes into it. I'm particularly, my mental health side of it's actually painting miniatures. That's more cool. So than playing, but also I've been played competitively for many years as well, which just gets my competitive streak out. So that works for me. And it's finding what works for different people. It might be going for a walk every day. It might be fixing old cars. It could be just relaxing with a glass of wine and some nice music and a spa pool if you're that way inclined. But it's finding it, it's knowing it, and actually scheduling it into your life as well. It's not just knowing about it, it's making sure that you're actually doing it, because otherwise your phone's going off constantly. A staff member needs this, staff member needs that, supplier wants to sell you something, you've got an overdue bill over here, something just broke. It's constant. You actually need to schedule yourself that time.
I agree. I actually heard...
And schedule yourself
really
with family time as well.
On another podcast, there was a guy who said what he does is he has, I can't remember the name of both of the phones, but he has what he calls a cocaine phone and then like a chill phone. And the cocaine phone has all of the apps. It's where everybody has your number. So if somebody needs to reach you, they can. And then he has like a chill phone. So if he goes for a walk or he's doing his miniature paintings or something, he just has that on it. He just has that phone and has nothing on it but the few people that really need the number in case they need to reach him have the chill phone. So it's a way to switch off without distractions, but you can still be reached in case of emergency. And I thought that was really nice.
That's quite clever. I think like it is one of those little things. I found that actually because I've got work emails connected to my phone, and I found that the notification sound of that actually triggers anxiety for me. We're about to move into a new phase of the business, and I said to the wife the other day, I said the first thing that I am doing is sending out to all of our clients change of email addresses to minimize what we've got, so that I've only got a couple that I need to focus on, and then I'm removing that thing off my phone. I'm done with emails coming through my phone. Facebook Messenger started giving me anxiety issues as well for a while there. So I took a social break last year, barring using Business Suite for business. I logged out of Instagram. I logged out of Facebook. It was only meant to be for 6 weeks. I think 3 months for Instagram. This is in July last year, and I only went back on Facebook last week. I got Messenger back before Christmas, but I was just so free. I didn't have constant dings going off or notifications about something stupid that I didn't really care about and that was just noise in my head. Because when you're dealing with stress, all this other stuff keeps filtering in as well. It just becomes noise and distraction. And it's horrific. So I think it's finding those things that actually trigger you and finding those things that help you with your mental health and mental fitness.
So true. And you mentioned the next phase of the business. What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so I think I'm relatively comfortable to discuss that one now.
We can make sure it's released accordingly in the timeline.
So basically what I'm waiting on, I've actually sent a sale and purchase agreement off to these people this morning. I'm just waiting on a signature on the dotted line, and that will be a massive breath.
Congratulations.
Breath of fresh air. So basically, just about 2 years ago, we purchased a 6-hectare lifestyle block an hour away from the business. So we're an hour south, and we commute every day. People think we're crazy, but it is what it is. We probably are a bit crazy. And we've been in the process of converting it to two-bay shed and closing it, fully lining it and everything, and turning it into a new roasting operation. We've got a roaster sitting there ready to be installed, which is awesome. We are doing a lot of the work ourselves, which means things take time, and we haven't borrowed money this time. That's a massive part of this. We didn't borrow money for this build. So we're doing it all off our own backs and plus some fundraising. What do you call it when you get other people to help raise your money? Yeah, but through the business. So we've done raffles and stuff. Crowdfunding. We've done raffles, we've done subscription deals, so forth to help funnel money into this. And I'm trying to build it to but have the overall final feel of it to be quite a high level, a bit of a retro sort of space, so a bit different from what we've currently got. That's the aim, whether it turns out that way or not, because it's actually going to become our main social space as well, because we're leaving Napier. Yeah, we are. So we looked at doing it end of financial year last year, so our financial year ends 31st of March, but we had a reason to carry on through for another year. And which has worked out really well because we met a couple over that period of time and got talking, and then they wanted to get back into the hospitality game, and everything's led on to. So hopefully we're going to be passing the baton. We've got a penciled in date for the 8th of April, which happens to be 8 years to the day that we signed the lease for this place, and we will move backwards to just being wholesale for a while and not running a cafe. We will be back in the cafe game, there is no doubt about that, but we need this time. We need the time to breathe, the time to build inside the business. I need family time, and I've got 6 hectares of land that needs work on. It's worked out really well. I have actually picked up a part-time job as well, out of the industry. Actually, for somebody that I worked out, they never told me, but I worked out that they used to be your accountant as well. So accountants. So I was actually Gail's first client when she went out on her own. So I'm actually taking on a sort of just a 10-hour a week job for them, handling all their payroll and HR side. So something completely different as well. But so we're saying goodbye to Napier. We've been here now for 8 years. For me, I know that my time here is done. Don't get me wrong, I've loved what we've created. I'm going to miss what we've created. I'm really going to miss our regulars, because you build lifetime relationships with some of them. But I know that this chapter for us is coming to a close, and we now need to start focusing on the next chapter. So hopefully all goes to plan and we hand off the cafe side. If we don't, we're going to close the doors here. So we're not contingent on selling it. It would be great to sell it because that means that we've got a bit of cash just to clear what we need to clear and to work with the roastery. But either way, we're walking away from Napier because it is our time. We weren't successful on the market pre-COVID. We did actually the following year get a really good offer that some days I kicked myself that we didn't take. It was probably only about 5K less than our asking price. But we'd set some other wheels in motion at that point of time, and I'd already spent some money and energy on that. And I was like, no, I want to carry on doing. I want to carry on through with this. Let's just take it off the market instead of selling it to these people that's offering us lots of money, because that made logical sense.
Do you decide that it's time to close the doors anyway? Because that's a big decision to make. So what is the key deciding factor for that?
Look, part of it was definitely my mental fitness. 100% was. Part of it was I knew that I needed to have a change to be able to really heal. Part of it was, for me, I've got 3 young girls at home that I'd like to spend some more time with, and I'd been able to. But we knew when we made the move in our south, we knew that we would not be able to continue this in the long run. And my wife also works at Napier. Without saying anything that I can't really say, I don't because we've talked about it, but there's nothing in place. She might be gone from Napier in 6 months. She might be gone from Napier in 2 years. We don't know. But there's always going to be in the back of it that actually we both now need to transition down.
Yeah, it's a very long commute.
And it is. We could live in one of the major cities where you do that daily and you only go 5 kilometres because there's that much traffic. But for us, it is quite a big commute, and it's quite a toll on our family, our kids. And it took a toll on us as well in our relationship. And so it was time. I also, as much as I love the space that we've created, as much as I love the customers, the guests that we've got, I'd love to do something else. And I'm we actually got offered a lease down in Central Hawke's Bay couple of weeks back. And my brain's one of those ones, I can walk into a space and I can see 1,000 different layouts and options and ideas thing really quickly. And so within half an hour, I'd probably gone through 40 different reiterations of the space and had settled on colour schemes, branding, wood tones, what's the menu, what are we selling, what's our target market, everything like that. We turned down the lease, just saying we turned it down. It was a really good lease, but it was not the right time. I think that's the other thing in this industry, getting into this industry, walking out of this industry, expanding your business in this industry, is you need to really know when the right time is. And it's not just time in the market, it's time in your own life as well. Because if you're not mentally there, it's not going to work. Or it's going to work, but it's going to drag you down in the process. So you really got to know how to time things out properly. And so even now, I said to the wife, if we got offered that space that we're looking at 6 months after we're out of Napier, we'd probably seriously consider it then. But I need that time. I need that time to breathe, to recharge, to spend on other projects, to spend with the kids and really work out what's next and what direction I want to actually go. And how to get, I know where my calling is, I know what I want to create, but it's about what stepping stones need to be put in place to get there and how do we go about that.
Cool.
And
I'm excited for you. It sounds really nice. I think having that change will be life-changing for you.
I've got one guest here who's become a really close friend over the last 6-7 years. They've been through everything with me. He's the only other person outside of us that's got keys to the cafe. So if something goes wrong at the cafe, he'll be down there to sort it out for me, sort of thing. He's actually done quite a bit of the work on the roastery build. It's like a big brother figure to me. And he turned to me this morning, so he's the only one that knows about sale or us closing or any of that. He turned to me this morning and he says to me, turns up and we're putting these the tables and chairs out. So have you worked out how many more days that you got to do this? So I'm like, shit, it's only 36 more working days. If everything goes through on the date as planned, I'm like, it's only 36 more working days. He's like, you're not going to know what to do with your mornings for a long time, are you? Like, you're going to wake up in the morning at 4 o'clock in the morning and be like, what the fuck do you do now?
It's true.
But honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to what that time will give me as a person, my family as well. I'm really looking forward to starting to create the ideas for the next thing. I'm really looking forward to getting this roastery build done. The concrete pad for this space was paid January last year, but because we're not dealing with bank money or with tradies and so on and so forth, it's all our own money and stuff. You trickle feed things in, and then you get out for a delay. Other things can't happen. So we lost 3 months waiting on Sparky that never ended up showing up, sort of thing.
Classic.
But you can't just max things out in 3 months. You've got to, cool, this stage is done. There's now no money left in the bank account. We now need to wait another couple of months before we can do anything else. But I'm at that point now that we can see the end of the site. I want to get done. I want to get paint on the wings.
That's so cool. That's so exciting.
So
what do you think your vision of success looks like now compared to when you were first opening a business? Do you think that vision of what success is has changed?
Yeah. Completely different. If you had asked me when I was 20 years old what I wanted when I was 30 years old, I would have told you word for word that I wanted to have 10 to 15 different businesses under my belt, predominantly in the hospitality or supplying the hospitality business, and that I'd be able to live off the profits. Like that was literally what my goal was. All right. I now passed that 10-year mark. I can say I don't have. For me, from a financial aspect, it's to be comfortable. All right. I think reality is for most people, it's just to be comfortable. I think for me, it's having not the balance, but the mixture of doing what I love and doing the things that I enjoy doing with the people I love. I love my kids. I love spending time with my kids. It is hard to find that time alone. I think people have a mindset in general of we need work-life balance. But I think work-life balance isn't on that day-to-day or that week-to-week mindset that people have, especially when you're in business. I think it's actually on an annual scale where you have a couple of months where you have to push really hard and you pack those months out, and then you need to book yourself a couple of months where actually you say no to them, don't take on. You actually just breathe and relax and recharge. And so for me, it's just finding that rhythm. I think that to me is success, is finding that rhythm, enjoying what I do, spending the time with the people that I love spending the time with, and hopefully make a difference in the long run.
Yeah. It's a hugely different perspective change. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it would be nice to have a few more dollars in the bank account once in a while. Don't get me wrong there. Big perspective here. We've been doing this how long? My eldest is 6.5, barring a trip to Auckland for my father-in-law's 50th birthday. We've had one family holiday since I opened the business. All right, so that's... My kids never been... No, that's not true. They did come up to Thames for a weekend. I was on tournament. They did come up to Thames for a weekend, which was really little. But we've never had a proper family holiday. We had our first one Christmas, just been. Because we planned it, took 12 months of planning to make sure it happened. And yeah, I wouldn't turn back now. It's not a conditional in our lives anymore. We have to have family holidays. We have to have breaks. We have to make it work. Because otherwise, when you're in a small business, you keep running and running. When you're in hospitality, it's like you're running while on drugs. Because it is. It's constant. I don't know how many, the number of phone calls I get from sales reps every week trying to sell me something. Sales rep, I don't know. All right. They're not our sales reps, they're new people. Or just suppliers in general. Emails that I get every single week that you have to contend with. My phone going, I ignore my phone. I pretend everybody is the tax department calling me, and I ignore.
There's some solid business advice for you guys.
Yeah, ignore them until you get a letter from them.
Oh no.
Just to be clear, I'm on good terms with the tax department.
Do you think there's anything that we haven't talked about today that we should have talked about?
I think there's probably a lot of things that we could talk about in hospitality and in small business owning. I think we've covered I think a big thing which we've really talked about is that mental health during a journey, recognizing it as a journey. I think it's the biggest piece of advice outside of mental health that I could give people going into the industry or that are already into the industry is know your numbers. Know your numbers and don't push yourself before you're actually ready, and understand where you're pushing yourself to. I see you've been putting out a lot of content about numbers recently. And honestly, it's been fantastic. It's been really refreshing actually reading it, because it is something that we don't talk about, especially when you've got a passion-driven business. And people think we just go in and slap a price can make money. It doesn't work that way. You actually have to know how many of what you need to sell each hour to cover the rent. And you need to know what percentage that rent needs to be of your revenue. And that's where people get caught up and get lost. So know your numbers, protect your mental fitness. And
I agree.
And if you don't know your numbers, find someone that does. There is no shame in not being an accountant.
I agree with that so much, and this is the reason that I started Overproof, is because so many people get to a point, like maybe they've been doing it for a year or two, or maybe they've stepped into hospitality and they haven't worked in hospitality before. They haven't learned the things that they didn't know. And so it's really easy to feel like you're going to be judged if you don't know those things, and you need to learn them. So reaching out to other people that can help you is potentially game changing for your business.
You only know what you know, right? And a lot of people are not number-minded people.
Hospitality.
They look at spreadsheets of especially in hospitality. We're there for the good times, for the yarns, for the banter, for the few boozy nights. We're not necessarily there to look at spreadsheets full of numbers. But yeah, find the people, build your team. Not just your staff, but build your team around you that can really support you and give you that. And also recognize that there is a difference between paying for an accountant and having an accountant on your team, because your accountant can be one of your biggest assets from the business operations side. If they're actually on your team, if they're somebody that you're just paying to do your end of years sort of thing, that's different again. All right. You need people that know what they're talking about to support you, and you need people that know more than you do in your circles.
That is great advice. I think we're going to finish on one final question, and I want to finish on a happy note. So if you could tell me what your biggest highlight of this journey has been.
My biggest highlight of this journey. Look, I love coffee. I absolutely love coffee. I think the biggest highlight for me would probably be the people. And I'm actually surprisingly, I'm a real introvert.
Oh, you don't seem like one.
I'm not, it's taken me a long time to come out of my shell. Like, this for me is to a degree nerve-wracking. As I said to you previously, last year I started a small podcast, which really got me having to jump completely out of my shell in a way that I've never done before. And so I've started pushing myself on sorts of things like that. But it is the people. We get to be here in this industry. We've got a gift that I don't think any other industry has. We get to be here for the moments. Both in our business and in other places I've worked, I've hosted birthday parties. I've hosted wakes and funerals, all right, in cafe spaces. I've been there for people that have just gone through a divorce. I've had people go into labour on my couch. I have had people ask me to watch their first date because it's a Tinder date and they've just gone through a messy divorce and this is the first time having a date since, sort of thing. And I've been hovering around the background to watch them, right? We've been there you get to be there for so much of it. You get to see the joy and the pain and all the emotions that people go through. You get to be there for the good times and for the bad times. I think my biggest highlight actually probably in the industry is humanity.
Cool. It's probably
not the answer you're probably expecting.
It is not the answer I was expecting, but I think that answer is like the nicest answer. It shows why you're in hospitality. Like, truly it does. I do want to say thank you so much for being really open and being vulnerable with what you've talked about, because what you have talked about today has been a lot of what many people would not share publicly. You have had a wild journey, and so for other people to hear that, and for people who might be in something, I doubt there's anyone in something completely similar, but somebody who's going through somebody who's also going through a really tough time while they're owning a venue, and they're like maybe struggling with the mental fitness side of things. It's really good to be able to hear that other people have found solutions for that themselves, and they won't be stuck in it forever.
This is my story. It's not anybody else's story. Everyone has their own right. And you're right, a lot of people aren't wanting to share their story. And me, typically, I probably wouldn't be. But I do really feel that if I can provide value for one person out there by sharing that then that makes an impact. And, the more we share these stories, especially around mental fitness, and particularly in the industry, because I feel it really gets ignored in our industry. I think the more we can talk about it, the more we can share our stories, the more we can help others that are in a worse place than we are.
Ethan, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, thank you very much, Sarah. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Yay, our internet didn't...
Order up!
Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Overproof. I will be back next week with another exciting guest.